my name is Amanda Longa.
And hi, I'm Maria.
I'm Camilla.
Marina.
And today we'll be talking about the living wage. We were supposed to present this in class, but sadly, due to COVID-19, we will be presenting here on this Zoom, and because all spring semester classes are moved to online, sadly. So now let us present to you our project on the living wage. The definition of the living wage is a socially acceptable level of income that provides coverage for the basic necessities such as food, shelter, child services, and healthcare. The current living wage mandates that no more than 30% be spent on rent and is higher than the property level. We will be going into detail about the history of the living wage, the progression of the living wage, what was discussed in the media about the living wage, and the current progress of it. Now let's get started.
Okay, so the living wage isn't something new. This social movement has been an issue for several Americans and individuals living in the United States for quite some time now. But prior to 1938, there was little to no there was no laws for the workers. Monopolies would take advantage of their workers and the fact that they could pay off politicians. They had total control over America. The 1% was basically in charge. So workers were overworked. They were like they were dying because of diseases and infections in the factories since they weren't clean. There's no health inspection. There was none of that. So these workers were overworked, underfed, total disregard before. They were the mentality was you're replaceable, which in the aspect they were, because since so many people were looking for jobs to stay afloat, they were replaceable in that sense. These workers sometimes worked up to 50 hours per week, 7 days a week. Usually you had one day off, but sometimes you couldn't afford to take that one day off. So they would work holidays, they would work throughout the whole year basically. And then when Roosevelt got elected, he was with the people, he was for the people. Roosevelt wasn't like any other politician. He was in the military, so he was very he's very disciplined, and he did what he had to do. So in the fireside chats, he gained popularity with the low income individuals because the way he fought for them. They thought they gave these individuals saw hope in Roosevelt. So when the Fair Act, the FSLA Act was distributed, it was 25 cents per hour. It was supposed to be originally 40, but Congress didn't approve of that, so they settled at 25 cents, which is equivalent to $4.30 in 2017. That So since that minimum wage, we have raised it 22 separate times. The current minimum wage, average across the United States, is $7.25. That's the average. That's not including tipped workers. So this is for office jobs, retail, stuff like that. Tipped workers, people who work in restaurants like that. The average minimum wage is $2.13 per hour. Yeah, and that's currently 21 out of 50 states have that minimum
wage. So, as Rena said, the wage is currently set at $7.25 per hour. Now, these are all jobs: retail, fast food workers, certain offices such as receptionists, and many other jobs. The restaurant workers, they get paid as little as $2.13 per hour. This doesn't really This adds up with tips, but let's say certain people don't come in or days are slow, like they're getting less money and not enough to cover their rent. The living wages are not enough in certain places because of higher property taxes in certain cities and certain states, and also utility and transportation. Miami is not good on public transportation, and many places where you work, you have to pay to park. So that is also a lot of money that's being lost from your paycheck on minimum wage to just park and to work there. The influence Roosevelt had was heavy, and he actually started the New Deal program to get these prices raised, as they've been raised 22 separate times since the beginning of this act. And he wanted all of the wages to be fair in every single country. Obviously, that cannot happen because in certain places, some properties and everything are higher. Some employers have signed agreements covering like 16.3 million employees. These signers have agreed to a work week between 35 and 40 hours and a minimum wage of 12 to 15 a week, with no exceptions except that they can't employ people under 16 years old. This has helped many families, and this can be seen and displayed by the employer in the establishment with a badge that has a blue eagle over it, and on the motto is "We do our part," and this is the Patriotic Americans, and they're doing the Blue Eagle business, which is also really amazing. Also, the Fight for 15 is a movement that is talked about to raise the price of 15 all over the country, and hopefully in a couple of years this will happen. Here are some visual representations of people fighting for the Fight for 15, how unfair certain companies are, and how some people feel about it. This was published in the New York Times. This is also people fighting for underpaid workers. As you can see, many people are still underpaid today.
So, the minimum wage has it already talked about. The minimum wage is known to help lower income families, but in my opinion, that is really not true. There has been many fights to raise the wage to $15 per hour. Like for example, the food strike that started on August 29th, 2012, all the way up to 2015, but not as much change after these strikes. There has been a lot of arguments that are very against these movements, and the arguments of the minimum wage that people claim is that it would increase the rate, it'll be an increasing rate, they will need to increase unemployment and higher the prices of consumers. Next map. As seen on the map, even though that is just for Illinois, you guys can see how they're expecting by 2015 to reach $15 and the different types of races throughout the years. And this is the maps of the states that are still going through the minimum wage.
Okay, so as you can see here, the fight for 15 began in 2012 when 200 fast food workers walked out of New York City to demand $15 an hour and union rights. So today we are a global movement on 6 continents and in over 300 cities, which is amazing. There are people who have been involved in this protest are people like fast food workers, home health workers, teachers in childcare, airport workers, retail staff, and just underpaid people in general that want to participate to fight for $15 an hour because it's well deserved and people need to live comfortably and happy. So overall, because of this protest, the total amount of money that has been raised is $68 billion, which is amazing. And as seen on the chart on the previous slide, by 2025, we hope that the current minimum wage would be $15 for everyone in the United States.
The Fight for 15 was a movement that began in 2012, and as Camila said, there has been a lot of money raised. Hopefully in the next couple of years that will take place. And the movement has been building forward throughout the years. with other low-wage workers joining the fight throughout the years. The campaign was launched by the Service Employees International Union, and we have them to thank for making the most movement with this issue. And that concludes the end of our project. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the semester.